get started. The parking lot looks to be cleared, so I apologize if some of you had a hard time finding parking. It's normally busy here on any night during the summer town hall. I recognize it's farmers market night, and part of the goal was that to maybe get more people to attend this, where there's more people up here. But if you did have problems parking, I apologize. We had folks trying to coordinate our crossing guards, but I'm glad you're here, and I would be a lot more concerned if it was an empty room. So I really appreciate everyone coming out tonight, and I've been looking forward to this. I had enjoyed our last community session we had over at the former mall, and I think I see a lot of people who were there, and now this is a little bit more formal of a setting. For those of you who don't know, I am Dave Seeley. I'm the supervisor of the town of Irondequoit. This young lady next to me is Sandy. If you haven't noticed, she is our interpreter for the evening. Please give Sandy a round of applause. I'm joined by my colleagues on the town board who I really value their partnership. We have Deputy Supervisor John Perticone, Councilman Pete Wayner, and Councilman Kimmy Romeo. I almost called her Assemblywoman Kimmy Romeo, but that's her daughter, Jamie. Please give them a round of applause. And we're joined by several members of my staff as well. And what I'll note is just a little bit of a format tonight. This is a public information session, also a chance for you to learn about the proposal and also ask questions. We do have a lot of people tuning in from home. So what we're asking people to do is if you do have questions, there are note cards there. Please fill it out and we will get to every question. It just provides a little bit more structure. If you feel strong, what's that? We'll bring one over.
This is the first I was informed of that.
Oh, sorry about that, sir. We'll get you situated. But what we're going to do is provide probably about a 15, 20-minute presentation and then open it up for the Q&A. We just ask people, we've always been very civil with these, whether it's a public hearing or a presentation. The goal of this is to inform you. It's also to ask good questions, whether you have concerns about the proposal or just need a little bit further information. I will say, the highlight of my day over the past month or so has been answering whether it's emails or voicemails. I know a lot of people who I was communicating via email are here tonight and said they would be here tonight, and I've really enjoyed the thoroughness of the questions, a lot of good questions. And one thing I'll say about my town, the town of Irondequoit, is when we make community decisions, there's always heavy civic engagement. People take interest in projects like this. There's always thorough debate, which I think is healthy for democracy, and I think it's a good thing. At the end of the day, an idea has been proposed for the people of Irondequoit to consider. It's up to the people to vote on that proposal, and the more informed folks are, the better. So I applaud you for being here tonight, and very much look forward to the presentation and answering your questions. With that, I'm going to get into the presentation. There we go. And for those of you watching at home on iCat, this will be rebroadcast on 1301 and Facebook Live as well. So the reason we're here tonight is the town board in its May meeting scheduled a community referendum. It did so electing to do that. The referendum will be held on July 30th, next Tuesday, at St. Catherine Parish Center at Christ the King, right up the street on Kings Highway South, 445. Polls are open from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. We're proud of that. A lot of times when town referendums are held, the voting is rather limited. I think one earlier this year, it was only, I believe, 6 hours or 8 hours. The last time the town did it, I think it was 8 hours. So we're trying to provide, well, not maybe the full 15 hours, giving ample time for people to vote. Absentee ballots. We've gotten a lot of absentee ballots for folks who might not be able to be here the day of the vote. The deadline to mail in your application for an absentee ballot is passed. You can still come to the town clerk's office up until the day before the election, request the absentee ballot, and return it to them by the end of the day on the election day. And I'll note, all Irondequoit voters are eligible to vote. I will say, if you are not registered but wish to vote, we are honoring affidavit ballots. So if you're not sure you're registered or perhaps have not re-registered in Irondequoit, as a citizen, you do have a right to vote via affidavit ballot. Those will be filled out at the polling site, and we're ready to process that. So that's the point of why we're here on Thursday. But the question is what will be on the ballot? There's a lengthy proposition that has to be that way pursuant to town law and how we do referendums, because you have to be very thorough about what it is asking for permission to do. But in a nutshell, the town board has passed a resolution proposing to borrow money to finance, in part, the construction of a community center, and has asked the voters of Irondequoit for permission to do so. Now, the town board elected to do this. We could have just gone through with it, and perhaps someone would have petitioned, but we felt this was important enough for the entire community to make, so we just proactively put it up for the ballot, on the ballot. So a little bit of the reason we're here, we've had a lengthy history with community centers, proposed community centers. This is the stack I have in my office. They are plans spanning from the mid-90s. It's certainly been something the town has been looking to do for decades. A lot of plans have been studied, advanced. I think consultants have made out very well with proposed community centers in Arundecoit. Construction people perhaps not so much, but at the end of the day, for whatever reason, they've never progressed. So why a community center? Well, one of the reasons the town board felt compelled to do this was Arundecoit Recreation, and we're joined here tonight by our soon-to-be appointed Director of Recreation, Katrina Hall. She does a great job. But under her leadership and her great staff, who is also here tonight, we've seen considerable growth over the past several years. And the statistics really don't lie. The number of residents using Arundecoit Recreation Programming has doubled since 2014. The number of programs we've offered has increased by 75%, 74%. That's pretty impressive. Those numbers tell a good story. It means we're investing in providing those amenities that are essential for quality of life in our town. Our biggest barrier, however, if you would ask our recreation staff, is physical space as a barrier to continued growth. Another reason, I say this often, and we are competitive with other towns, and we enjoy other towns. There's a lot of great communities in Monroe County, and I say Arundecoit is the best of them all, but other towns are making investments, and simply put, Arundecoit, we can't always just rest on our laurels. We have beautiful neighborhoods, great people, good schools, but you have to continue making, I think, those investments, given a lot of these communities that neighbor us have a town municipal community center, a YMCA, JCC. Some have both even. Also, our comprehensive plan in 2014, which was passed with broad community input, charged the town with expanding recreational and athletic facilities. And I said, we're competitive with other towns. Other towns are making this investment. Does that mean we have to? No. This is an elective we have to make. But I will note, it is trying to keep us on with what other towns are doing. The town of Henrietta, $10 million recreation center. The town of Pittsford completed a $9.2 million renovation of their existing community center, and that was with a new YMCA being built right down the road. If you haven't seen that thing, it's massive. The town of Chi-Lite just last year approved a $24 million community center and library. Webster and Parrington already operate fully functioning community recreation centers. Now, you don't have to read this all, but this was basically a brain dump from Katrina and her staff of, if you had more space, what would you do? And you can see there's so many opportunities that just removing that one barrier of physical space, we could really expand upon and offer programming, events to not just seniors, but adults, youth, families. My recreation staff is chomping at the bit to do more, and I think this is just a little bit of a brain dump as to some of the things they would like to do. Now, what brings us here tonight? Obviously, a lot of discussion prior to 2017. In September of 2017, there was an announcement for a plan of the redevelopment of the former mall, now called Skyview on the Ridge. And I'll let you know how we got to that September 2017 stanza. The owner of the mall, we had talked after he bought it, and I think he was assessing what best to use for the space. And he did a number of studies, market studies. And one of the things that I pressed upon him, and I said, first of all, Angelo and Gracia, what the people really want more than anything is the mall to be redeveloped. They don't want to be going by there and seeing an eyesore. And I'll note today, it was very encouraging. The first physical improvements are being made to the outside and the roof of the mall, so he's investing money in that. You're going to start to see cranes in the sky, more activity, and hopefully more tenants. 2 tenants recently announced, St. Anne's Communities going in there, Pat Stone Senior Housing. So there is progress at the mall. But what I said was, the people of Arundecoit, I think whether it's just their connection to the mall, I think they feel a connection to that mall, and they want to still be able to have that connection. They have so many fond memories. So from that, I said, if there's any possibility for you to donate or provide space to the town for a municipal use, I think we would like to explore that and try to put together a proposed project. And he agreed. And what he agreed was to abate a certain square footage of the mall, reserve it for the town, that he would not lease out, and in effect, he would provide to us, not necessarily lease free, because there are common area maintenance charges I'll get to, but really not necessarily derived to make a profit, so that base rent is zero. I think he might see value in having a community center there, but not looking to generate a profit from us being over there. So what I said at the time was, 2017, he offered that, and on behalf of the town, I accepted the offer to look and assess moving forward. So from there, what did we do? November 2017, February 2018, we had a very well I think, run public engagement process. Many of the people who were part of that are in here today. That included engagement that I'll get to. In January 2018 through April 2018, we did a feasibility and market assessment, which I'll describe shortly. 2018, we adopted a lease agreement if we wanted to move forward. In April 2019, which was really the first quarter of this year, we completed a schematic design, which is not a complete design. The point of a schematic design is to understand how you can build out the space to get the program you desire, but also get a sense of what the budget might be. You want to be accurate when you're narrowing down a budget. May 2019, the town board passed a bonding resolution, sets the referendum, and Tuesday we will have a community vote. So, as I said, I went through this a little bit. One thing I want to note is after the announcement that we were going to explore doing this and the start of the public engagement process, we impaneled a community center advisory committee, which was made up, most importantly, of several residents in town, from a good cross-section of town. I want to just recognize them: Rick Walther, Jessica Metris, Paul Cackamies, and Jamie Pedinero, each bringing their own perspective, I think, and life story and experience in the town. They worked with the town consultant, LaBella, as well as key members of our staff, particularly Ms. Hall, Carrie Ivers, and I believe Bob Kiley, our highway commissioner back there. That was an extensive process, which led to the community engagement process. The first meeting we had at the library was very well attended. That was held in November 2017. We held a survey, an open survey for people in the town to complete. And really what we wanted to get from that is, in addition to constructive feedback, was what program do we develop? What is the things that people in the town are looking for in an amenity like this? We held multiple focus groups, narrowing in on specific interest areas, athletic programs, children and families. A second community meeting was held at Bishop Kearney, February of 2018. From there, we presented some draft findings of the community engagement study, and from there, a final report was issued to the town board in March. That was really important for us. I'll just stop there. The community engagement's important. I don't think any, top to bottom process is helpful for an exercise like this. And regardless if people, I think, support what we're doing, I'm proud that I think that process and that proposal was developed with broad community input. I think that was very important and something my colleagues on the town board certainly valued. So getting a sense of what the program is, the program being which type of amenities that would we offer perhaps that are in the community's interest, we wanted to get a feasibility and a market study to accomplish two things. A, determine if there is a market in Irondequoit for a facility like this, because the last thing you want to do is build a facility that no one would come to, right? That's a concern, right? There's no use constructing the brick and mortar and then not having anybody use it. And I'm mindful there are other fitness facilities, there are other facilities in town. We also wanted to get a recommendation on an operating model and get a sense of what the bottom line numbers might be. You don't want to take that leap without having a sense of how it's going to impact your bottom line. We hired, through our RFP, Ballard King Associates. They work with communities throughout the country who really are asking themselves the same question as Irondequoit. Is it in our interest, or can we build a community center or some sort of recreational center? They prided themselves on conservative estimates. They made that clear very upfront. Their goal is not to lead you to an answer, a conclusion you want. So they were very clear, especially when we interviewed them, that their numbers that they provide are conservative in nature, meaning they're not going to inflate them purposely. And they gave us a good sense on the projected impacts to town operations, both on the revenue and expense side, which was very valuable. And the final feasibility operations study said, A, the market assessment concluded the town could support an appropriate sized community center. Given we're an older, higher median age town than the national average, they recommended a multi-generational facility. They looked at whether or not, and we asked them to do this, whether it made sense to propose having an outside contractor, an independent operator, operate a facility like this, and they concluded because we have a strong recreational staff, and they said they work with some communities that have no recreation staff, but they spent a good deal of time with Katrina and her team and felt very confident that they were equipped to run a facility like this. Conservative estimate, that's the revenue generation in year one. I know a lot of people have taken interest in that. What I do note is that does not focus on the likely migration of our existing staff into the facility. And so eventually a 90% cost recovery. I'm confident will be even higher. I will say too, I think recreation is an investment, so if a recreation center loses a little bit of money relative to our entire town budget, I think that's a worthwhile expense. I'll note we built several new athletic fields throughout the past several years, and they don't mow themselves, they don't maintain themselves. We've had to hire additional staff. That's impacted our bottom line, but it's a decision I think the town board collectively has felt appropriate to make because recreation is something we feel worthwhile in investing in. So the lease agreement was developed in late 2018. What I'll say is the town took great care and time, really several months. It was part of a delay throughout 2018, much to my chagrin, but for the right reasons. Number one goal is to protect the town's interests, the interests of the taxpayers. Ultimately, a lease agreement was approved December of 2018. And I said, unlike virtually most commercial leases, the owner is not interested in generating a profit from having the town there. I think he wants to have us there. I think it might be good for the broader redevelopment of the mall, but not looking to generate a profit from the town. And I'll note, there's other municipally leased facilities throughout Monroe County, the Webster Library, the Gates Library. They are more of market rate leases. Their presence there is to generate, I think, a profit and help a commercial owner's bottom line. As I said, a $1 base annual lease for 20 years. It would be market rate, years 21 through 25, subject to negotiation. The reason some people have asked why is the initial lease term just 25 years, the short answer for that is the bonding is a 25-year bond. After 25 years, the bonding is paid off. Signing a 50-year lease, I wouldn't want to encumber a future administration. I don't know if I'll be here in 25 years or 30 years, but hopefully I'll still be in Arundequite. But I don't want to encumber a future town board who might have other alternatives once that bonding is paid off to perhaps look somewhere else. So that was the point of the 25-year lease. It's still renewable, however. It's automatically renewable for a 5-year term and then subject to negotiation after the 30 years. Common area maintenance charges with our reference, we would pay our pro rata share of expenses for operating the facility. Many of those expenses are those which the town would incur if we own the facility, snow plowing, insurance. A lot of people rightfully so ask, what if the facility is sold? That's a good question too, because does that put into jeopardy us being there? Can we be kicked out? We strongly pushed and finally executed a signed subordination, non-disturbance, and atonement agreement, also known as SNDA. That's important because specifically the non-disturbance agreement gives us the right to continually occupying the expense regardless if it's sold or even foreclosed. So even if worst case scenario comes, and I don't think this will happen, but if Bank of America comes to own the mall, we still have a legal right to be there. They cannot kick us out. We do not pay any rent until we occupy the space. After the lease, excuse me one sec, I'm a little dry mouth here. Early 2019, we went through the schematic design process. We worked with Del Paz Associates, who has very extensive knowledge of the mall. They've been a consultant on the mall for a number of years and really knew it like the back of their hand. And I said, those aren't final drawings, but ultimately they're intended to help us understand how we can best use the space in the allotted area and determine a final budget. So what's the plan? Well, that's hard to read, so I'll go through it in a little bit of detail. As the best way to describe it is the mall would occupy, and for those of you who were there a few weeks ago, the north main entrance, which, if you remember shopping there, was located between first, I think, the Kaufmann's and then the JCPenney, and then subsequent to that, the Macy's and the JCPenney. It's the northern area just juxtaposed to the former food court. We would get 2 stories. We pushed very strongly to ensure that a majority of the space allotted, or at least a good portion, particularly for our senior activities, is located on that first floor right by that front entrance. And one thing I'll note, and Councilman Wayner is very much to be, I guess, applauded for this, was the note to make it accessible. So if you see there is a ring road opposed around there and a canopy, we want to make this place very welcoming. We understand that, especially if we're moving our senior programming there, we want to make sure that it's accessible. So that was something that was important to Councilman Wayner and ultimately the design team. Once you get inside, you have a redesigned lobby area. That's the form of Cindy Cinnamon Buns, which would comprise really our main entrance area and parts of our welcoming lobby, but also our senior center, which would be located up front in that allotted space. This area is, on the basement level, if you're looking out towards the main entrance. And I like this because look at it now and look at it there. That's where the basketball court and elevated track would be located. that's not easy to construct. The schematic design was very helpful with that, because what we need to understand is how to best move columns, internal demolition. If you've been in the mall, you remember there's a lot of beautiful columns. Those columns are actually made of steel. They don't make them like they used to, but demolition is a cost that we're mindful of, and the schematic design really helped develop. So that elevated track is something we certainly got from feedback during our community engagement process. The same thing with the gym. I'm mindful we have other gyms in town, but I'm also mindful it's very hard to just have an open gym. I can't tell you how many residents have said that pickleball is the #1 priority. So indoor, amen, sister. But so indoor pickleball is obviously something that I think people want. We have moved towards something known as inclusive recreation, where people who might have mobility issues, and we want to make sure that the facilities we build are appropriate for programming for that and conducive to that. Pickleball is a great inclusive recreation activity, which we're excited about being able to offer that. But just the additional gym space, sometimes it's hard to get the schools, the churches, and just having that accessible for folks, I think, was important. So the gym was certainly one of the top priorities of the Community Engagement Center. This area right here, which is on the first floor of the mall, would be converted into the fitness center. This would resemble more of your privately owned fitness centers. This would be primarily where the membership driven activities would be, the people using the workout facilities, the cardio machines. Ample space, 4,000 square feet. Somebody asked me that earlier in an email, how many people that can accommodate. If you're familiar with LA Fitness, I think LA Fitness's main floor is, I think, 6,000 square feet. So that's not small. It's a little deceiving. That is not small. That's 4,000 square feet, probably three times the size of this room. Bob, how big is this room? Make something up. It's probably about, I would say it's probably about 3 times the size of this room. I can say probably about three times the size of this room. So certainly ample enough for what the market suggested. And that number was driven from the market assessment of how many people might be interested in joining a facility like this. Additional space, I mentioned, we want better space for our seniors. The Pine Grove facility, we've put some money into it, but simply put, I think we can do better. I think we can have expanded space, recreational space for our seniors. We have a larger senior lounge area proposed, a larger multi-purpose area that we can do more activities, space dedicated for senior programming right near the main entrance, which again was important to us, that dedicated drop-off, and then additional space and aside to the senior programming for active and passive recreation opportunities. Flexible community space. I don't know before we built the library where we had community meetings, because every night the library is booked up. And the need for multi-use community space, I think, is paramount. Space that can be used for community meetings. We envision also this taking the model of the Camp Eastman cabins, where if people want an indoor year-round place to have a banquet, any type of party, this would be a revenue generating opportunity, but we don't have a lot of that space in Arundequit. I'll note it's unfortunate. The days of the Newport House and other large meeting rooms where people can have events, I can't tell you how many times I'm saddened to go out of town for an event like this, because there's not ample, I guess, space in the private sector. So that's an opportunity for us as well. Then we have additional active recreation space, a flexible turf area. Mainly that would be, I envision the primary users to be our youth athletic leagues, and also a dance studio, which was something that through the community engagement process people saw value in. Those are not the actual renderings. That was images taken from common pictures, but just to give you a sense of what that would be used for. So that's the proposal. That's what is proposed to be inside the facility. Now let's get to, I guess, some of the nuts and bolts, right? So one of the first questions people ask, and rightfully so, is will there be fees? Ballard King recommended certainly that, as this is a community center, there should be a significant free component to that, and that's access to meeting rooms. Our senior programming, I had a senior today ask me if they're going to be charged to take advantage of our daily senior activities. Of course not. That's not what we're envisioning here, no. People ask about the elevated walking track, and the idea of the town board is not to require the monthly membership, the yearly membership subscription to the fitness center to be able to access the walking track, or the common area too. A lot of people, and I should have mentioned this, our lease was adamant, we were adamant on being able to access the common areas of the mall. Who was a mall walker? I used to walk the mall. I think it was a disappointing day for a lot of people when that access was cut off. So, an elevated walking track is good, but just having access to that common area, that beautiful atrium. I think the owner, we made a compelling statement, and I think he was comfortable enough to be able to provide that access. One question is about non-residents. Actually, let me, before I didn't want to skip over. Baylor King did recommend a yearly membership fee for the fitness center that would range from about $20 to $25 a month. I think there's a lower rate for seniors, and also this would be, our goal is to have this eligible for the insurance reimbursements that Medicare or the private insurers provide, whether it's Silver and Fit or Silver Sneakers. A question about non-residents. Well, I'll just note that monthly membership fee, I think it was important to me and my colleagues on the town board. We looked at what other towns were charging, and I'll note that as far as similar facilities, this would be beneath, on average, what the other facilities charge. And I think one component of the recommendation was maybe a little bit higher, I think, for a family than I think the Webster facility. And I just want us to be more affordable. So our goal is to make this the most affordable community recreational center, to be a membership within. We're mindful that, it's a working class town, and we want to make sure people, if they want to take advantage of that, it is affordable. Non-residents, a lot of people ask about non-residents. No community center like this is exclusive to just the residents that live in the town. But I will say, and rightfully so, it's been asked, then why should non-residents get to use it if they're not ultimately the ones paying for it? And that's a good question, and how you overcome that is you charge a differential rate for non-residents. Non-residents don't pay property taxes here. Non-residents, therefore, in my opinion, and I think the opinion of every other municipality that operates one of these, should have to pay a differential rate. So that's the answer to that question. We could never exclude access to non-residents, and certainly if there's revenue recovery that we're looking at, I think we welcome that, but mindful that there is a need to charge a differential rate. So let's get to the actual proposed construction budget. All things considered, the budget is for $9.5 million. I'll note if by comparison the library was approximately $13 million. But approximately budgeted $1 million for soft costs. That's architects, engineers, construction manager. That's pretty much on par with projects like this. The project is proposed to be funded, so the balance of that, the project is proposed to be funded through the issuance of municipal bonds, and that's the point of the referendum. It's to give permission to the town board to issue municipal bonds sold on the bond market. Our bond rating has improved over the years, so we're able to get a lower interest rate. It would be a 25-year payback on the bonds. The other thing is we have accrued a significant fund balance over the past few years, and we're proud of that, but I don't like the fund balance to just sit in the piggy bank. I think the point of a fund balance is to reinvest it in the community, and the town board, I think, agreed as a way to offset more long-term borrowing. Use of fund balance was appropriate, so we proposed a fund balance sweep of $2.25 million for the project. Even with that sweep of the general fund balance, we would still be well within and near the top of our town policy guidelines for fund balance, which is generally 5 to 20%. I believe this will put us somewhere north of just 15%. So we're continually building that fund balance through a number of ways, and we'll continue to do it after this. And I'll just note the fund balance has grown from about $4.5 million just 3 years ago to $7 million now. And it's not there just to accrue interest and sit in a piggy bank. The point of it is to reinvest in the community. The fiscal impact of borrowing, so over 25 years with interest compounded, on average, the annual debt service over the life of the bond is $403,000. That equates to 14 cents per 1,000 of assessed value. I will note, though, and this is important to note because that number really sometimes exists in a vacuum because we are retiring debt. We're retiring a lot of debt. So even with that increased debt, our debt level throughout the life of this proposal, assuming no new debt, but as proposed, will never reach the higher rate than in 2017 of what the town's debt service was. So we're retiring a lot of debt, a lot of old debt, which is good. The median annual impact on property taxes, and that's based on the median home value in Arundequoit, that it fluctuates, it depends who you ask, but a general number is $130,000. That's the median sale value this year, and if you go on a lot of the private sites, that's what they're saying. That would be $18.20 a year. So I'll just say, despite recent investments, I'll note town debt service has decreased substantially. In 2014, it was $3.5 million. Pre-borrowing for the DPW garage, which I'll note was not a choice. We needed a DPW garage. The community center is a choice we make. Pre-DPW is $2.515 million. Projected debt service in 2020 would be $2.48 million. The peak of the debt service would be in 2025 at 2.8 million. And that's just the schedule. Someone at the last meeting contested what the debt service would be. It sometimes does change, especially if you get a better rate when you go to the market, but those numbers are pretty much locked in. Our numbers for the library now are locked in. You can float bands, bond anticipation notes for a number of years, but debt service is probably one of the more predictable numbers when you're doing this. So even with the community center borrowing, the projected average change in debt service is negative $8,000 from today. The projected median change in debt service is about $422, and the change in debt service from 2012 to 2021, which would be the first new year of the debt service. I know it's a lot of numbers, but just to give you, we're here, we would go back up here, it would still be almost $900,000 less in annual debt service than what we were paying in 2012. So that just gives perspective, because you throw out the number of what the impact is from the borrowing, but I want to make it clear that doesn't exist in a vacuum, because the debt service, there's a schedule, and it is changing over the years. So that's the gist of the proposal. The proposed timeline, if this would move forward, we're not presumptuous, but people have asked what the timeline is. Obviously, the July 30th referendum, if it is approved, and I should have noted this, people do ask, does it need a supermajority? It needs basically 50% plus one. It's not like the property tax cap, something like that, where you need 60%. From there, we would hire a architect, engineer, construction manager through an RFP selection. Towards the end of the year, final design, bidding out construction contracts, and then ideally in February 2020, breaking ground to be open for business early 2021. We like to keep things on time, but there's things can arise where I'll note we're on pace for our. Sorry about that. I know we're on pace for our DPW garage to be on time and under budget, so that's always our goal. With that, I know people have questions, and I have a lot of questions up here. If you have continued questions, raise your hand. I will ask, if I see a hand pop up, my preference, to ask a question, my preference would be to continue to use the process. I assume that'll break down at some point, but I will get to every question. Some of them might be duplicative, but I want to make sure I get to every question, and I'm going to shuffle them just to not show bias. Okay. Do you have to be a resident of Arundequoit to use the facilities? I went over that. The short answer is no. Qualified with a non-resident would have to pay a differential rate. And that's the short answer. A lot of people have asked, and that answer is it will not change even if we wanted to. How long is the Xerox call center committed to be located at the mall? I don't know the answer to that. I know they signed a multi-year lease, but as you know, with call centers are somewhat can get up and move quickly. My hope is that would not be the case. I know that they have grown their employment base since they first opened, which is good, and we hope that is the first of many anchor tenants at the former mall. That's a good question, though, because some people have asked, are we going to be there by ourselves, right? And is a community center the be-all, end-all of the mall? And no. Again, the answer is there are people signing leases at the mall, which is good, whether it's St. Anne's for adult home care, moving their operations over there, to a senior housing development proposed for the former Sears, which is very exciting. So there is interest in the mall. A million square feet doesn't get resolved overnight, but my hope is that will continue to grow. What is the status of I'm guessing that's Pathstone project? Capstone? Someone asked about Capstone. Perhaps I think you were looking for Pathstone. That project has been approved by the town as far as land use decision. Ultimately, it still is. They're putting their finance together. As you know, a project like that sometimes relies on state aid, since most senior developments do have an affordable concept. So they're working with the state. Just had a meeting the other day with both Pathstone and the state. So my hope is that would be moving forward very quickly. Thank you. Pathstone is they're basically a housing development company. They do primarily senior housing, but they construct housing developments throughout the area. And no, that's a different project. Seniors. Yes. Thank you. It's a duplicative. Okay. Has there been any consideration for marketing promotion opportunities for small business in the community? Who asked that? Just out of curiosity. Do you mind just explaining, is that within the community center or other outside of the community center? So sometimes we're challenged by that. Despite our desire to be entrepreneurial, there are there are disadvantages or barriers put up to that. What I will say is, in that core area, I think you're going to see if there's any retail or businesses, restaurants, I think the owner is looking to put them in that kind of first area that he's developing. So if not directly in the community center, and what I will say is, we try to be as entrepreneurial as possible within the law. So if there are opportunities we can provide to have public-private partnerships, very much open to that. It's just state law sometimes prohibits that. But I think you will see complementing businesses on the perimeter of that facility. If the developer's investment in the mall fails, what happens to the town's investment? As I said, through that SDNA agreement, we're there as long as we can't be booted out by a new owner or a bank, or if it goes into foreclosure. And those are pretty airtight, and we were pretty insistent on that. I don't want the mall to fail. I don't think that's necessarily a good scenario if we go through that process and there's a new owner, it goes into foreclosure. Certainly that's not what we hope, and I hope that doesn't happen, but just know if that does happen, the town's interests are protected, the investment is protected. What would be the monthly fee? Assuming that's for the fitness center, recommended right now is $20 to $25. Ultimately, that would be set by the town board, but I think that's a comfortable number. When you looked at what the market study said and generated, I think that was a comfortable number for us to put forth. Certainly, that's a conversation with the town board and staff, but they can nod in agreement. I think our goal is to make this affordable, and if it's overpriced and not working, certainly we take consideration to that. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to price people out. Yes, if the differential is significant enough. It's recommended to be significant enough, mainly because you want to recover a greater amount of cost from the non-resident. And again, the point of that is parity with the people who are contributing towards it.
I don't understand because on the slideshow it mentioned health plans with Medicare and Silver Sneakers.
Yep.
So we, as an example, we belong to the JCC. We pay nothing on Silver Sneakers. So how? I don't understand why there's a cost.
Well, that's a cool. So not you would be eligible. So I think I might have glossed over that or mentioned that too quickly. Our goal would be to make that eligible for Silver Sneakers or Silver and Fit. But for residents who aren't of that age where it's eligible, they wouldn't be eligible for that. So thank you for clarifying. She just wanted to make it clear that if you are getting at another facility the Silver and Fit or Silver Sneakers Advantage, it would be applicable here. And yes, that is ultimately the goal. And we will do everything we can to make sure we're certified for that. Would you consider an introductory fee to get folks to get a free 2 months? Sometimes you'd be surprised what constitutes a discount or a gift to people that we can't provide. Certainly, again, we're going to try to have business acumen and business sense with this to the greatest extent of the law. Sometimes it is hard to give people a different rate or a different value that live in town. It constitutes, believe it or not, an illegal gift at times. And I've learned that over my 3.5 years. Things I wanted to do that made sense, which law restricted me from doing.
Will you be able to join on a monthly basis, or does it have to be a yearly basis?
To be determined, I think. I think that's something you want to be flexible with. How will the town respond if in 10 years interest in the community center has declined? Will we be stuck in a 25-year contract if the facility fails in 10 years? Well, again, the community center will be there as long as we want it to be. So that's the short answer. As long as we want to have a town-run community center for people to access, they will be able to access that. If the mall goes into foreclosure, et cetera, we still have the right to be there. My hope is, and I'm confident we won't be there, that we're not the only tenant there in 10 years. But again, as long as we want it to be a community center, it will be a community center.
But if it's losing money, do we have the right not to be there?
That's a business decision for the town to make, so it's always a decision to make. Yes. How specifically has the town investigated in other local community centers? I guess that question would be we've looked at other, one of the first things we did was we took a trip and looked at every other town-run community center in Monroe County just to kind of see. It was a nice afternoon spent with Katrina, Bob, and a few of the board members, and we went out to Henrietta, to Webster. I've been to Parrington a few times. We're very well familiar with what Shiloh's doing because I want ours to be better than Shiloh. Theirs is a combination community center and library. It's massive, and that's a huge investment for them. But yes, best practices, and that was one of the values of having Ballard King, the consultant, because they've done this with hundreds of municipalities. And I was very pleased because it wasn't a cookie cutter approach that they kind of just fill in the variables. They used that extensive knowledge of other municipalities throughout the country and applied it, I think, to Arundequoit's market. Are there additional redundant but already available rooms, services, et cetera, considering the library and schools? Well, I'm amazed at how booked that library is, and I think I already expressed as far as recreation, one of our biggest barriers is space. You know, in Pine Grove, it's really converted classrooms, right, Katrina? And I know you'd want to do more if you could, but at the end of the day, space is really an issue. And so I think, okay. Wait, what?
Just to repeat.
Oh, thank you. I understand. Thank you. She said if somebody asks a question from the floor, which I'm still discouraging, I will repeat it so everyone can hear it. So, but again, space is our biggest barrier, so we're mindful of the need for space. And I just don't know where people met before we had the library. We had smaller meeting rooms at the library, but certainly not what I would call adequate. Will there be a group of residents, not town or Parks Recs employees, to review and make final comments on the final design? The short answer is I would say I want this to be open and a process. Ultimately, we've been through a process by which people have had input on the program and what's in the mall. Certainly when we work with our engineer, there's valued engineering that takes place, and we want to make sure we're doing the most cost-effective way possible. I'm always open to having community input. I don't want it to be a barrier necessarily, given we've already consulted with an architect and engineering firm, but I do want this to be transparent and open. So that's a pledge to the community should this move forward. According to Silver Sneakers instructor who teaches at the Grease Community Center, during the summer they cancel the senior classes to use the space for kids programs. With Parks and Rec moving to the new center, what assurance can you give us that similar actions won't be taken in Arundecoit? Well, Katrina, chime in if you want, but I will say the goal is to expand this to more cohorts, right? Right now, we don't do enough with children and families. You know, one thing that multi-use space is, I'm mindful, is just the need to put an indoor playground or something for parents to bring their kids to. I can't tell you how many younger parents particularly told me that they have to go to outside of town if they want to just give something for the youngsters to do. That additional space, especially that flexible space that's in here, I think is going to ensure that we're able to I guess, address and really provide services for all those cohorts. Go ahead. Here, Katrina, here, why don't you?
So currently, right now, we can hold pretty much one program at a time. So just one Silver Sneakers class in a cafeteria or one youth program in a small classroom. And so with a center like this, we could hold these classes simultaneously. So programs for seniors at the same time as children and also for parents at the same time as children. So I think it would give us just so much more flexibility.
Thank you, Katrina. Who is the Empire Fund involved with the project? I think there's no Empire Fund involvement with the project. So I can't answer that, sorry. What's that?
That's the address on the card where it says taxpayer dollars won't be used to send out that mail.
I don't believe that's true. I don't think the Empire Fund, familiar with the Empire Fund is, but
Arlington Highland Avenue is the Empire.
I don't believe that's true.
Well, then who sent out the mail?
The mailing is that's the return address of my personal campaign committee. So I, as supervisor, promoted the referendum. I did not use town funds, but it's something I feel strongly about. We put the return address of my campaign committee, so I felt the need to be transparent in that regard. So understood. I mean, I'm as more of a private citizen, but someone who supports the project. I'm not using town funds to do that, but certainly wanted to advocate for that. Okay, there has been mentioned in the paper there's not been a fee decided. However, comparisons were made in Democrat and Chronicle, communities that have fees. One charges a $5 annually if you don't use the facility. Is this a possibility? Yeah, again, I think that's the goal. If you're not using the fitness center, is for there to be, you know, if anything, I know other towns do $5 to $10, but it won't be that monthly fee, and if any fee. That don't use the fitness center, so the workout center. Yes, thank you. Will pickleballs be available to play on? Yes, and I promise I'll learn how to play pickleball and play the first game with Councilman Perticone. I don't know. One of these has been answered. Will there be sufficient security to remove troublemakers? Well, the answer is yes. The private security, we also, an officer, Sergeant, Jim Hughes is here. Jason Hughes, excuse me. But we had a conversation with the owner of the mall as well, not within the community center, but nearby, to have dedicated space for the Arundecoit Police Department. Not necessarily a substation, but a place for the officers to be, fill out paperwork. We want the police to have community policing is important to our department, and we want to make sure if this is a main area for our residents, we want to make sure the police are there, and but the private security too. And I'm mindful that's something that, a perception that exists, and people want to make sure a site like this is secure, and it's definitely a priority of the owner of the mall as well. How do you justify a fitness use annual fee for singles, $300 and $540 for family of 6? That does not seem fair to singles. It's a good question. It's a recommendation. I think it's used from best practices of other municipalities, municipal-run facilities. Certainly, it's open to consideration. We'll continue to look at, I think, what other municipally run facilities offer. I know the senior rate is the lowest proposed rate, I believe, at $20 a month, and certainly would be eligible for Silver and Fit. Yes, do you want?
For one person in the fitness center, it would be $300 a year. And for 6 people in a family, it could be less than twice that amount.
Yeah, and
It doesn't seem
okay.
fair.
That's good. So she asked just about kind of, I think this was your question. So she's looking at the family rate, and we can look at that. I think one of the reasons why is children perhaps wouldn't be primary users of the fitness center. Having a family in there, you wouldn't see children using. Understand, and we can take a look at that. And again, if there's glitches in the cost structure, I think that's good feedback. So thank you for providing it. And again, I wanted to make clear the fees aren't set in stone. That was a recommendation, and that's going to be an ongoing process, I think, with the board and continuing to talk to the community. Will the kitchen stay at Pine Grove, and can anyone use it? We have not made a decision with Pine Grove. Our intent is to move the senior programming to the mall. If we deem there's a use for Pine Grove, we will keep it open. I'll note the new facility will have a kitchen as well, our cabins at Camp Eastman as well. How will there be an area to assemble jigsaw puzzles near the senior area? If somebody wants a jigsaw puzzle, we can have a jigsaw puzzle. We're going to have more space, and certainly we want to make sure we're receptive. Do we have a jigsaw puzzle right now?
There'll be a dedicated senior lounge, which is much more than we have now,
So,
so that space, the seniors will have their space to congregate and socialize.
thank you. That's important too. There is a dedicated senior lounge that's currently bigger than what we have at Pine Grove. And somebody asked me today, can we move the pool table over? If we don't move it over, we'll certainly get a better pool table. I don't know how old our pool table is. And I promise I will continue to call bingo from time to time. This question was just answered. Yes, there will be a separate designated area, game lounge for the elderly and our seniors. And is there a cost for the elderly to come to the center if they want to socialize? No. So that would be just on par with what we have now at Pine Grove. How do you prevent riffraff from loitering so we don't repeat areas of the old mall? Again, look, I'm mindful that's a perception. I think, we'll have security over there. It's going to be appropriately lit. It's a priority of the owner of the facility to make sure people feel safe there. And that's not just for us. I think it's for all tenants. So that's certainly a consideration being made by both, obviously, the owner, but also the town. Proof of residency, yes, there will be some proof of residency to be determined how that functions. But again, if you're a resident, you will be charged the appropriate rate. Would classes presently offered at various schools, East and West Arundequoit, be moved to be offered the new community center? I would love to. The schools have a lot of ample space. Sometimes our relationship with them isn't perfect. I know the schools offer community education. Sometimes it's duplicative, but our goal is to be able, the broad spectrum of programs offered to people in the town, whether you live in East or West Arundequoit, to be expanded. We're always looking to partner with our schools as well, in a number of ways. If the July 30th vote on the $7.5 million for the community center gets voted down, will there be a redesign for a smaller amount? Has this been thought about? It has not been thought about. I think that's a conversation the board would have to make. I'll just say this, looking at what the program that was developed and the services we were looking to offer, we worked for really several months to get that budget down with the space. It's challenging. What I can assure you is, and I think Councilwoman Romeo impressed this on someone the other day, regardless if it passes or not, we're going to continue to invest in our recreation and make sure our recreation has the ability to better serve our residents, which they already do a great job. So we're going to continue to prioritize recreation regardless if this passes or not. But again, I think if it does pass, our wings will be broader to fly for our recreation department. The lease agreement that was authorized back in December, the available copies, yes, it's on the community center website. And certainly, if anybody wants it, they can come visit our office. You don't have to foil it. We're transparent with that stuff. We tried to put all the documentation up on that website, but if you haven't gone to the website and just want a copy, yes, absolutely, it's there for your review. Are there any 5 to 10 year projections for operating costs and ongoing tax implications to review before the vote? A lot of that was in the Baylor King study. I think I went over in the presentation. There were projections for both revenue and expenses added. Again, I'll note a lot of those expenses and the revenue side didn't incorporate existing revenue and expenses we had. But that we did that because we wanted to look at our bottom line. That was a 5-year projection. I don't want to say that was a worst case scenario, but that was the reality if you were to just start a facility like that up with no recreation department. What is the significant public debt being retired? Why? Okay, that's the first question. A lot of it was, McAvoy was retired. A lot of other smaller infrastructure projects that were more 5 to 10 year borrowing. McAvoy was a big project. Bob, anything else? McAvoy cost a lot. That was the primary debt that was retired. Why do we need another gym? Are there 2 within a mile of the? So I assume that's fitness centers. Good question. That's come up a lot. Why do we need another fitness center? And we made that clear with the Baylor King study. And again, I don't want to keep referencing that, but that's what the experience they have. And they said generally when facilities like this open, and you look at that study, they put on the dot, there's LA Fitness, there's other ones in nearby vicinity. The goal is not to take their customer base. I wouldn't mind it. The goal is to provide a different alternative for people. So, I'm a member of LA Fitness right now. LA Fitness has the heavy weights. You get the weightlifters there. That's not the intent of this. They recommended, I think, I lift the 70-pound barbells when I'm in shape, but, they recommended lighter weights, more introductory fitnesses. And what they said is their experience is often the private fitness centers, and I won't speak for them, they don't mind this because it gets more people into fitness and this sort of recreation where they can graduate to a more comprehensive. I'm not going to say that's a certain, but that was something maybe anecdotal that they pointed out. So that's the answer I'll give to that. Our goal is not to cannibalize our fitness centers privately run. We value them as good businesses. They produce to our tax base. So the goal of this, I don't think, is to compete altogether. Yes, here, Katrina. You got oh, there you go.
So just to add to that comment. Oh, sure, yep, sorry, yep, sorry. So just to add to the supervisor's comment, I think our approach with this community center, at least on our department level, is more of a hub for all generations. It's not just a gym. It's a place for people to socialize, for intergenerational programming, for children to grow up in, and for grandparents to be able to bring their grandchildren to, or parents to bring their children to. So while the fitness part of it is a component, it really is that more holistic approach of a hub for the community to be together in a positive place, to recreate passively or actively, whatever they choose to do.
Thank you.
We're also looking at esports, things that haven't been done in other.
So to Peter, Councilman Wayner's point, one of one of the things we admittedly don't do well enough is serve teens programming. That's not recreation's fault. It's just we haven't been able to capture that audience. We've worked with the Drug Coalition for the past several years, and I'll know Katrina Freeman's here, who's a member, and perhaps others. And the goal is to provide outlets for our teens, and we're looking for ways. What would get teens to congregate and socialize that they're staying out of trouble and have that alternative? And I'll tell you, we did our formal focus groups, but I can't tell you how much I embrace talking to teenagers in our high schools about this because they give good feedback, and they say they're bored. They say there's nothing. They wish there was more to do in town, and that breaks my heart. So our goal is to provide not the be-all, end-all for socializing if you're a teenager, but an alternative for them. Will they?
Crafts and robot making and all those things that we're lacking.
He sent robot making. I think what Councilman Wayner is thinking, we're looking to have flexibility and think outside the box with serving our. Okay, thank you, Peter. Get control of him over there. Are they going to be able to reserve rooms for weekly bridge? Those bridge mahjong? Mahjong. Sorry. Yes, of course. And whether that's through the senior center or just rentable community rooms, we want to make sure this is accessible for our residents. Walking track, I think I declared that the intent is not to require the membership fee to use the walking track. Security, I think I touched upon. How much will local labor be used in this project? To the extent possible, required by law exclusively. And Councilman Perticone is terrific in that, coming from the construction trades industry. I know with our Department of Public Works facility, it's been a priority. With the library, John was integral, not just ensuring local labor, but ensuring he wanted Arundequoit people on that job, and I think it was a source of pride. So I can't tell you how many times I go over to the DPW site, and I'll talk to the guys or the women working there, the people working there, and ask them where they're from. And when they say they're a resident, it really does mean a lot. Why is the YMCA, YWCA located here? Was that not located here? Yes. Okay, that's a good question. I don't want to speak for them, but I have asked them that many times. I won't lie to you when I say, if the YMCA wanted to build a facility in Arundequoit Mall, why would we not welcome them with open arms? The short answer is they do not. And the reality of that is the YMCA has historically looked past Arundequoit because they have two locations that are one in the Maplewood area, the other near Arundequoit Bay, and they've always been a fear that one would cannibalize the other. I've never been particularly thrilled with that rationale, but it exists. YMCA reserves the right to make their own decisions. I did ask them early on if they would be interested in partnering. It did not seem like it was feasible, so that's the short answer. I wish it wasn't the answer. Progress at the mall, how many years has it taken the new landlord since he bought to start improvements? Well, first of all, I will say this. I don't want to speak for him entirely because he owns it. For the past year, he has been making internal improvements, whether it's with a lot of the stuff on the inside, the wiring, electricity, securing it. What you're starting to see him now is rebuild the roof. Not the glass part, that's staying. He's also, if you notice that facade that was in the renderings, that you're going to start to see those constructed over the next few months. So that's going to be exciting, frankly, because that's going to give it that new pop. He's also building out the area, that first 130,000 square feet, where both St. Anne's will go, but other perhaps businesses, and he's using it almost as demo space to show to potential tenants what the mall could look like if redeveloped.
Yeah, but you said that he was doing these great things, and he sat on the mall for 2 years before he started putting any money in for doing improvements.
I don't want to speak for a private owner, but I think if it's a business decision, I don't think anyone wants to just sit on a property and do nothing. There's carrying costs, they're paying taxes on it. Again, I'm not a private developer, but if there's a cost benefit to moving forward and doing so, I believe they would have done it. I think he was doing his due diligence. But again, I won't speak for him. It's a business decision the owner of a private property made.
Excuse me, Supervisor, can I also chime in
Yes.
and just provide that as part of the redevelopment of the mall, there are a variety of planning and zoning related types of reviews and approvals that were required. And so in the process of acquiring the mall, it's also going through that. So that does take time. Planning board approval is understanding there was a zoning change that took place, and so no action was taking place at the property until those actions were completed. That was part of why you haven't seen progress physically there before now.
Thank you. This is Carrie Ayers, our Director of Development. Understand. That's why I'm glad he's spending money there.
I called town hall and asked what was happening in the front, and the person that I spoke to said he didn't know there was anybody in the mall.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't get information, I've been trying to get information.
Well, again, it's a privately owned facility, and we provide the information we have. And
That's what scares me about putting this here.
Okay, fair enough.
I know about everything else.
Understood. And hopefully you will start to know more about what's going on in it. Yeah.
I don't understand her reasoning, and when you began this, you said the person that owned the mall was doing great things to the mall, and he didn't do anything in 2 years. And if it took that long, then why was the call center popped in there?
That's a,
So
it's a separate,
Excuse me.
it's a-
let me
Okay,
finish.
Carrie, it's
I
okay.
have to still have the floor. This call center got in there, bam, no problem, fast.
I can
We
answer,
stole
I
that
can
away
answer.
From Webster.
Um,
And now you're saying everything takes so much time, there's zoning and all this and all that, then why was it such a fast rush to get that call center in, but now everything else taking so much longer?
So one answer is, and I don't want to divert too much from the community center, but the call center is owned, believe it or not, that's the former Macy's. That's actually a separate property owned by a different owner. That's owned by the Flom Development. They do a lot of call centers. again, the answer to your question is, I know that the owner's been actively pursuing tenants. And I don't think it's by choice that, half the mall isn't leased up yet. I can't say what the business decision for people not to locate there is. I do know he has actively, looked to attract tenants. So I guess that's the answer. Would it be nice to see half the mall built out right now? I don't disagree with that. Am I glad that investments are, bless you, am I glad investments are being made? Yes, I am. I don't know if I said great things. I'm happy that he's doing, investing money in the mall. So that's the answer. And look, I'd like to not delve too much, I guess, on what other tenants and decisions being made by private businesses are doing, but certainly the point is well taken.
But we have to know who else is in the building, otherwise, why will we feel safe going there when we don't even know who's next door, who's in the same parking lot? We don't, and you can't tell us, and I went up to their door and asked who they were, and they said, we can't tell you who we are.
So she asked, I guess, and I don't want to divert too much from the format, but the question, that's fine. The question was, why would we build something if we don't know who the other tenants are? Well, we do know who, I guess, at least 3 tenants are. We know that there's the call center. That's a spin-off of Xerox. We know that a senior housing development is going in the former Sears, run by a very reputable housing company. And we know St. Anne's Community is building services right across from the mall. So I know that. I can't tell you the balance of the 500,000 square feet, but
Isn't that public information?
sort of, there aren't tenants there currently. So I guess the answer is certain parts of the mall don't have occupants yet. That's the short answer. Okay, we can move on, and happy to talk about that later, or if you want a sidebar. The firm you hired, Baylor King Associates, stated this facility would have a operating loss of $526,000 over the first 5 years. It's not been mentioned in the flyer to residents. Why not? Well, we've been pretty transparent about that. I think we've acknowledged that what the impact of the bonding is, as well as that projected operating, I guess, differential. And again, I'll note that it exists in a vacuum, and my hope is we can recoup some of that through migrating existing operations. Those are projections as well. I think sometimes when you provide information, you want the most concrete information possible. The numbers regarding the bond impact are the most concrete numbers.
Just a question on the revenue. If we vacate the Pine Grove area, are we gonna do that completely? And if we did, could we sell it off to the school?
So he asked about Pine Grove, and I think the question is, will there be on efficiencies, but operating burdens transferred over or eliminated through the maintenance and operation of Pine Grove? Absolutely, yes. Pine Grove costs money to use and operate, to heat, et cetera. And again, I think we need to do a scan of Pine Grove if there's a use for it. Right now, I don't know if there's a use for Pine Grove if this moves forward. However, I will say, we want to do what's best for, I guess, that facility, whether it's looking to sell it, whether it's working with the school district on something. I love Pine Grove. I have sentimental value to it. So I think we want to make sure that the town doesn't have a need for it and then make the decision based on that.
Meeting spaces?
Oh, yeah, maybe. Oh, goodness. What does the center offer that isn't offered at area gyms? What I'll say is, to Katrina's point, it's, I think, more multi-generational social space. It's not primarily a place to go work out. I think it has other components as well. Certainly would have our awesome senior center, which I love the notion of having that multi-generational element in there. Could the Wambach property be used so town owns the property? I can't, certainly a property could be used at Wambach. I know the Wambach was on the market for several $1 million. That would require acquiring it, then building. It's been under contract for a while, I know. There's a proposed housing development going in. Yep. So, again, and frankly, at the time this process started, with the mall, Wambach wasn't for sale. What I know is the acquisition cost of that was pretty substantial. That's just one of the realities we looked at. And I will note the mall, it's not too far away, but one of the benefits of the mall is it's more centrally located, I think. I think that's a benefit. I would say it's right in the middle of the heart of East and West Irondequoit, although I'll say it's right at the heart of the North-South Irondequoit divide, because I don't like to talk about East and West Irondequoit. This has a back, so. Does the senior center have plans to show they need more space? Look, again, I respond to the feedback of my recreation staff, and it was pretty loud and clear that a barrier is space. I look at what other towns have. I was just over in Greece the other day, and they have a very nice senior center. And it's not just the lunch area and the place to play cards. It's those passive recreational activities. It's that, whether it's active or passive recreation. Right now we're sharing space in a classroom with, senior aerobics, and I don't know. Next thing you'll have is children and families waiting at the door for something pre-kindergarten. So I just know that more space, I think, would be beneficial. Any plans for Pine Grove? I think we went over that. Any chance they had a racquetball, wiffle ball court? Volleyball court? Volleyball court. Do I look like a volleyball player? I think that's a possibility in the gym. I thought that was considered volleyball and racquetball. Look, again, design is not final. We did do a canvas, I think, of talking to residents, and racquetball certainly was one that was out there. And again, we're looking to best use the space. It's amazing how much 43,000 square feet can disappear when you're looking at fitting it with different amenities. What assurance does the town and community center have in regards to future tenants adhering to a healthy community center environment? Well, my hope is that the mall will continue to attract good, reputable tenants. I guess I'll just leave it at that, and I'll leave it at that, I suppose. Do we have a contract lease language documenting these assurances? As far as other tenants, no. The only real relationship with other tenants is the pro rata share of the CAM charges. What are the, if any, opt-out options? You can terminate a lease anytime. Again, if we do move forward with borrowing, it's a 25-year cycle for borrowing, so, I hope we're not in a position where we want to leave after 15 years and still have the bond to pay off. But again, that's why it's not a 50-year lease. We probably could have negotiated better lease terms for a 50-year lease, but, again, you don't want to encumber future administrations. Not that 25 years isn't an eternity, but, things change in 25 years and other opportunities might be present. I mean, sometimes I worry if Lake Ontario will be at Lakeshore Boulevard by 2050, so you never know. How does the lease location impact future growth expansion? Anyone, person asked that, want to clarify? Go. That's a good question. And the question was, we have 43,000 square feet right now. What if we want more in the future? Look, I think we always want to reserve the right if we want to expand. I think there will always hopefully be, even a facility like that is a million square feet. It's hard to be entirely leased out at any given time. I would certainly, and I can't speak for future administration, certainly would want to look for opportunities if it's cost effective. And again, I'll say this, a lot of people have yelled at me for not having a pool in there, and noted. When we were working with our advisory committee, first of all, again, 43,000 square feet can take up a lot of space really quick. It seems big, but a pool is also an expensive investment. I think it was a balancing act between all the things we wanted and that which we were looking to do something that was, managing costs to the greatest degree possible. So the program we put out, I think, reflects that. I would love to have a pool. I'll note Parrington has a pool, I'm aware. I'll also note Parrington has considerable outside revenue from the landfill. Pools cost a lot of money, even they would acknowledge that. It's an expensive endeavor to undertake, and that was a hard decision to make, but I think one that we were comfortable moving forward. Did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, even though we've lost some of the audience here, you still have a significant number of really interested people here. They wouldn't be here. Could we look at a show of hands for how many people here would use the fitness center?
Sure. So one thing, it looks like maybe about a third to half. One thing in the market study, sir, the market study, and somebody asked, well, how do you know you have enough? Is there a magic number? And I think I answered this at the previous. It's not a huge capture number. I was thinking, well, 10,000 people would want to use the facility. It's not. It's a couple thousand. Maybe it's a pretty low percentage of residents that you need to kind of capture your market. So I was actually surprised by that, but that's on par with, I think, the experience of other communities. So I was a little startled at first, but somewhat reassured by the consultant.
Sorry, I couldn't answer that question because I don't know the cost of everything coming up. And I'm living on Social Security disability income. I'm on poverty level now.
So we'll make sure if it does open, the costs are finalized and transparent. We have about, can I say, we have about 5 more? Okay, we can, I want to stay to the people who answered the question, so 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and then we're gonna move on with the questions, okay? And then if you want to open up afterwards, we can have open mic night, but let's get through the cards. Yes, sir? He ran the leagues, yeah. And again, so, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. So I'm just gonna, for the benefit of people who might not be here, and I appreciate everyone being here, what we'll do is for the next 3, and then I'm gonna go back to the cards, but I'd like to give the next 3 that I agreed to answer from the audience, the microphone. So, but his question was basically, we have schools with great facilities, and why aren't we, and I can't answer that. I know, you know, I know the schools use the facilities often. I almost feel like when we were doing the community assessment, if people felt like they had access to those school facilities enough, perhaps they wouldn't have listed them as high priority of things that they want, so.
Can I speak to?
Go ahead, Katrina.
Go ahead, if you want to finish, I just.
Okay, so the general question is redundancy with existing, well, it was twofold, with existing facilities, perhaps private, and also just usage of the school and communication. So go ahead, Katrina.
Sure. So if I can just speak to that on a department level, we've seen, at least I've been here for about 8 years now, and I've seen an increase, and even prior to that, in year-round sports for youth. So what we're finding when we request to use the schools on a department level for our younger children, our Tiny Tykes programs, or for our seniors, is that the school district is using it for their year-round sports programs. So, and then they also provide the open swim, and so we can't get in there for our programs because obviously since it's their facility, there's first dibs there, and the kids from the school district are playing varsity and JV sports year-round now as opposed to just during that one sports season.
Okay, and so it was you, and then I think Christopher, and then this.
I will answer on the open part because I can support what Katrina said.
Okay.
That I know about some of the things about the schools and how we can't use them.
So Katrina's motion was seconded by the nice lady in the audience. So you're right there, and then Christopher.
I'm sorry,
Then we'll get back to the cards, and if people still have questions, I will answer questions after I get through the cards. So
Is
go
this
ahead,
the-
ma'am.
Well, for the folks viewing at home, the microphone's really helpful, and then this way, I can't.
Don't be shy.
Will there be fitness instructors?
Yes. Which again is part of the cost of operating the facility, and that's a new cost we bear, but you need that cost. Christopher in the back.
So, Mr. Supervisor, a question with a kind of a financial concern. So the $9.5 million figure that you listed at the outset for kind of the total proposed project, can you comment on what proportion of that will be used to pay for stuff like fitness equipment, gear, whatever, that will remain property of the town and thus property of the tax holders versus the amount that will be spent on the build out for the overall facility that ultimately will become part of the Skyview property, if you will.
I understand. Generally, when you do a proposal like that, you divide the what's the term for FF&E cost. We normally do that. In this case, we actually included that in the budget cost. the FF&E, so furnitures, fixtures, and equipment. So that's included in the $9.5 million cost. Because what I can do is, there's a few answers I probably can't answer off the cuff. What I will do is, and I made notes of the ones, tomorrow I will get that answer up on the website. And thank you for asking, it's a good question. Okay, going back to the cards, and then if people still have questions, happy to answer them. What will the total town debt, not debt service, once the it's actually $7.25 million bond is taken from the lenders? I have that. It was in the presentation, but I'm happy to say it again. We're nearing our town budget time, so I'm paying a lot of attention to numbers like this. The first year of the borrowing, the total debt service altogether would be $2.48 million. And again, it was significantly less than that just 6 years ago. It would peak at $2.8 million. Yes. Oh, excuse me, you mean, Richard, thank you. Richard, you're right. So I don't have the total debt answer to that. I can get that up on the website again. So thank you. Thank you, and thank you for the water, Carrie. Thank you, Richard. If the DPW is on budget, why did you use the $2 million in funding? Short answer to that is timing. State grants have an expiration date. I'll notice Majority Leader Morelli secured the funding and is no longer Majority Leader Morelli. And again, we use debt service to finance the DPW center. I don't want to say it's all in the same pot, but in a sense it was. That was able to offset the amount we had to borrow for the DPW garage. So that's the short answer. It was just, in a perfect world, we would have been having this meeting a year ago, but it's a bandwidth issue, and we wanted to make sure we were doing our due diligence in putting this forth. But we did use that money for a town property, just a different town project. The feasibility project indicates free use of meeting rooms. The state constitution prohibits the use of government property without the payment of fair market. Right? Did the town plan to charge a usage fee for groups, not for profit? We will look and make sure we're, I think that came from Richard, we'll look to make sure we're in accordance with law. I know that was an issue with the library, and it will continue to be something we abide by the law with, so. The town, yep, okay, so that was that. What is the number increase, not the percentage increase in the usage of town recreation programs, including the base number? I think he's referencing those percentage increases. Again, I can get those. I don't know the number off the top of my head, so I'll get that up on the website. I try to know everything, but my fear is when I try to memorize it all, then I don't cite it, and it wasn't included in my notes. Will there be dedicated parking space for the center? The short answer, yes. It's not going to be significantly blocked off, but a goal, and this was an ongoing conversation with, thankfully with Councilman Wayner, advocated very strongly for, was to have some sort of, not secluded feel, but some sort of, separate access, or just that feel, a calming access, if you will, and that's one of the priorities of that drop-off area for our folks. We want to I understand that Ring Road can be a little intimidating, and our goal is to bring everything a little bit closer to the center. Will the community center have its own utilities should the developer fail? Yes, again, the developer, I hope does not fail, but it seems to be a common question. Yes, so the delivery of services happens at the access point, and we have our own utilities. The air is delivered, and it's delivered at a certain access point and a certain temperature, and is both heated and cooled. But the town will, as part of the proposed build-out, the town will be constructing its own plumbing, electricity, HVAC, those sort of things. Did I get that right, Pete, John? Thank you. Those are the construction guys, so they're and Kimmy knows just more than I do as well, so. Operating hours, so they're proposing the Baylor King study. It's a little different for us because you're talking about a facility that probably will be open outside of hours that we're normally used to opening facilities, and that's kind of to jive with what the market wants. A lot of people work out before or after work. It'll be open on the weekends as well, so I think the hours of operation will mirror what you would see at a private facility or YMCA. And again, that underscores the need, I think, to have lighting, security, et cetera. So again, something we're certainly mindful of. And $25 a month for fitness center versus $10 for Planet Fitness. I used to be a member of Planet Fitness. I know what Planet Fitness has. I think this will be better than Planet Fitness. That's just my personal opinion, but is the intent of the Skyview owner to have Skyview become non-retail business enterprise? I think he's looking at a whole host of things, both private and health human services sector. One thing that's good about facilities going there, some people hear, oh, St. Anne's is going there, or maybe a healthcare goes there. They're still, when they're leasing, they're still paying taxes, so that's good. The owner is paying taxes, so, you know, a lot of people get worried if Rochester Regional buys the tops, which happened in this instance. And it's a conversation I have with our healthcare providers when they're looking at expanding. I say, go to the mall, lease space from there, get a good deal. Don't, you know, I'd rather have them at the mall than buying up more property throughout the town. So, but I think he's looking for a whole complement of end users. Pathstone Senior Housing going to be low income. It's so a certain component of it's are what's known as affordable, and I'll argue for a lot of seniors who've spent down their assets. You know, you'd be surprised how many seniors need affordable housing. I think there will also be market rate as well. That's just the reality of any really senior housing project. Did the insurance pay for the new DPW building? I wish it paid for it all. It did not. I think about $5 million of it went towards the actual physical building. Maybe actually I would say closer to $4 million. We were able to, you know, the insurance claim, I don't want to focus on the DPW too much because it's a bad memory and it turns into a good memory, I hope. But you'd be surprised, how much the building had depreciated, and we got really insurance reimbursed for the building. And a lot of the claim went towards our vehicles. Remember, we lost all of our sanitation fleet, which, again, we didn't have a choice. We needed to recoup that immediately. So I wish insurance had paid more, but we've all had experiences with insurance claims. We advocated very strongly for the town's interest, and again, it's being built and is on budget. Okay, this was a question we already asked. This was the show of hands question. Democratic Chronicle indicated that Bob Morgan was involved with the mall and with owner Angelo Ingrassia. So the answer to that is he's no longer involved in the project. They had worked, I think, and I don't want to get into it, they had worked on other projects, I believe, and at a time, I think he was a joint owner of the LLC, I believe, but they have severed ties. Are you aware of any federal, no, I'm not, any legal action, no. Why police at location, not private security? Both. There will be both police and private security. I don't want to make my police department operating, I don't want to, they have a facility right now, and I want them to have a presence in a community center, but there'll be a complement of both private and public security. When I have private contractor managed fitness centers, again, I think I said that it was something we looked at, and that was the recommendation. And they really said this clearly. You have a good recreation department. They said they work with a lot of municipalities that don't, and recommended very strongly. I don't think they would recommend that if they weren't confident in our ability. How much of the approximate 43,000 square feet will be allotted to the police department? Right now, that's actually planned to be outside of the, what do they call it, the demise space, but nearby. I believe it's going to go on the first floor across the hallway, if you will, but very close, as we had discussed. How many people will the largest meeting room hold? I can't tell you how many people. I could tell you how many square feet, though. Let me just get that up. Don't leave. Go. So there'll be two additional multi-purpose rooms. The largest of them will be 1,700 square feet. If you've ever been to Pine Grove, the largest multi-use room in there is about 1,600. So it'll be bigger than that, but there'll be another room as well. And I'll also say, you have a gymnasium too for event. I just think, and you'll have use of the common area, I hope. So I think we'll be able to use that space as well. But by comparison, I think the library is slightly, I can't remember what the library is, but combined, it's more meeting space than the library provides. This is 1,800. Okay, so. Okay, thank you. How many people? Okay, I think I answered that. Who will manage the facility? Right now, it's proposed it would be the town recreation. Obviously, the broader facility is a private owner, so certain services will be provided by the owner of the facility. Who will manage the classes? That'll be a complement. We've really looked to I don't say vertically integrate, but we rely right now. Katrina will correct me if I'm wrong. We rely, I think, a lot on private contractors. I think we would like to bring a lot of those things more in-house. And I think the Ballard King proposal was reflective of that, proposed hiring recreation supervisors for those programs to manage. Who will answer question? Who answer question and answer at town hall? Ironically, that's the last question here, so I guess hopefully. Yes, go.
My concern is, when I call the town hall, I don't get to talk to anybody that can tell me things. They say, well, I don't know that, or call so-and-so, and I don't, I've been trying to
Okay.
get information
So, my direct line is 336. Oh, I hope, okay, I apologize if that was referred to you. Understood. So so a lot of times people call the switchboard, or my direct line is 336-6034. Okay, well, my apologies for not getting, I'm glad we're talking now, but my apologies for that. Okay, and one goal of ours throughout the past year has been better internal communication within town hall. We have organizational goals, and my goal, this is a nuanced proposal, and perhaps sometimes if you ask people who aren't as acutely aware of it, they may be a little reluctant to provide a definitive answer.
My concern is, will this happen in the center? How are we going to have management, who knows what everybody's doing?
Well, so she asked how will, in the facility, how will we have people who can answer questions? Our Department of Recreation will be there. You know, your recreation director will be there, her staff will be there. So that, I guess that's a short answer. Okay, so with that, that's the end of our questions. If you still have a question, why don't we pass the mic around? Do we have the mic? Why don't we start with?
My question is not related to the community center. I'm just curious to know if the parking lot is going to be extended where this, what I call sort of a Quonset hut building has come down. Is there gonna be more parking back there?
No, he's looking to redevelop. He's talking, I believe, up on the ridge where the former. So one of our plans is, now that that's taken down, is to, I think, I'm trying to pace this out, but we want to have a community master plan, similar to what we did here, to really understand what people want here. I think we're always going to need a little more parking, as tonight probably evidence, but look, at the end of the day, that's going to be space. I'll note it's not space that's easily to build on. A lot of it's fill, but it is space, and I would like to work with the community on a master plan process that clears it out and best realizes it as public space. So whether it's a rock climbing wall or, who wants a dog park? Just show of hands. Anyone want a dog park? Okay, Peter does. I believe this nice lady and then Mr. Devlin.
Can I start?
I can't see.
I'm gonna start.
I'm sorry, go ahead. My apologies.
So I was just wondering, as I stated earlier, my husband and I belong to JCC, but maybe I misunderstood. If you're an Arundequite resident, okay.
It's on, but
Is it on? If you're an Arundequite resident, you don't use the facility at all? Are you still paying it?
No, the short answer is no. You obviously assume your property tax. So the question was, if you are an Arundequite resident and you don't use the facility, do you have to pay for the facility? The short answer is, obviously, we're a town. We're funded through property taxes. That's the portion of the when I say the $18 a year, that's the median impact of property taxes. Thank you. I'm glad I clarified that. Don't be afraid of the mic.
Will the large room be able to be sectioned off?
The-
The large room,
Yes.
so there could be more than one meeting at a
Yeah,
same time?
so what we did was, we looked initially at one huge room and having partitions. Soundproofing is very important, I think, and when we work to that, soundproofing is something that we're going to take priority over. Obviously, if we can find multiple ways to use individual rooms, good, but I think we also were mindful that there's a need to keep, if there's activities going on, sometimes they get loud, and soundproofing is important. So when we first talked about maybe having dividers on one big room, if you've been to the library sometimes and you're in that middle room, it can get loud if somebody's in an adjacent room making having a similar event. So we were mindful of that. Did you have another question?
So I'm not sure what you answered.
Okay.
Will it be sectioned off?
I don't think right now I don't think, and this could always change. I think as proposed, the largest room would not have partitions. What I was trying to say is we had two multi-use rooms proposed. Initially, I think we proposed one large room and having a partition within that, so you could divide it up at 3,000 square feet a number of ways. But then we were mindful of the experience with the library, and sometimes it could get loud with those partitions. So I think we're leaning towards having two separate soundproof rooms.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, dear. Right there?
Right here?
Yep, I think you can just pass it down on that row who has questions.
How do you get from the first floor to the second floor? I'm not gonna make the jigsaw puzzles, but I may participate in one of the senior physical fitness activities, but I may wanna go to the track. If you go to LA Fitness, I can't get up those stairs to get to those machines.
Elevator. Well, there'll be an elevator on
Same
the,
elevator that's there?
no, I think we're moving the elevator, so it's
close
more
so
near
that
the entrance,
It's
yeah.
not hard to go back and forth between
No,
the two?
no.
Okay.
If people want a fire pole, I'll put a fire pole there, but there will be an elevator. We're mindful of having
I
it.
can't use the stairs, the fire pole's a little tricky. Will they still be using a lot of lifespan instructors as they are now at the rec center?
So the plan would be to.
Come on up, Katrina.
Much shorter than you. The plan would be obviously to continue the partnership with Lifespan, but it would give us the opportunity to expand that partnership so that we could offer more services. And if you see in the proposal, there is a space in that dedicated senior lounge, a private office, to continue to offer that Lifespan social worker that we already offer for our seniors, but in a much more private setting.
Oh, and the heat will be regulated too, right?
You
Not
got
too
it.
hot, not too cold.
Yeah, I hope so. Why don't you just pass it down? I think Mr. Devlin had a question.
This is on, yes. Two things, actually. First, I have a concern that by moving all the senior programs from Pine Grove to the mall, will actually disenfranchise some of the seniors because they're going to have a much longer walk from the parking lot into the mall. And especially in the wintertime, that could be a real challenge. I don't know if you thought about that, but that's just a concern.
It is, and when we were in the design, we'll continue in the design concept to encourage that parking area to be close and have it more accessible. But it's a challenge we're overcoming, and I think we're continuing to work to overcome that challenge. So noted. Thank you, Greg.
And the other thing I have is that about the fund balance. I want to say I disagree with you on the use of the fund balance for this project. Fund balance is for emergencies. For example, such as when Kings Highway collapsed, you don't budget for things like that. And if you're building such a great fund balance in somewhat lean times where we have less and less tax resources, then what you should be doing, in my opinion, is using a lot of that to help reduce the taxes and therefore help make our town more appealing to people to come here.
Actually, I would argue a lot of times what you don't want to do with fund balance is putting it into something that's an operating expense. Generally, fund balance, I think more appropriately, and that's I think financial consultants say it should be used more for brick and mortar. So you don't want to plug in a fund balance into an operating budget, and then when the fund balance runs out, have a hole, Greg, that would leave kind of the cliff to fall off. So I respectfully disagree with you.
Okay, you have a point, but I don't think it should be used for recreational facilities.
Okay, thank you for that opinion. Gary?
Hey, Dave.
Hey.
See, if this is voted down, will Angelo be building something close to this anyway as an amenity for the senior housing that's coming there anyway?
Not to my knowledge, no.
So what would they do with the empty space? Just
Well, I think he would look to market it to another tenant. Again, I think, look, this is a pretty prime location in the mall. I think he did this understanding my request to him. So, I think he sees it as a pretty good location in the mall to market. So I think he would continue to market to another tenant.
Okay, and then the last question is, what would be the overall total month cost that we would be paying as the town for the cost of the bond, the projected $100,000 deficit by the committee that came up, and the cost of the other rent, the utilities and everything? What's the total bill per month gonna cost the town?
So what I will say, and I can articulate those independently. The operating expense in this, so I'll go with the operating expenses first, was about $1 million to operate the facility. So if you divide that over 12 months, that's how many 85, oh geez, 82, what's $1 million divided by 12? 82.5? Okay, about 82,000. So I guess that's the answer based on the projection. I'll note that, we also have folks at Pine Grove. Pine Grove, right now in recreation, we spend about north of $1 million. So the question is, how do you fold those two in together? So the other answer is with the debt service. So if you're taking on average about a $400,000 annual debt service, I think that was the number. Again, it's divided by 12, and that would be 33. God, it's budget time. So I'd say 400,000 divided by 12, $330,000 a month. I think that's not right. $33,000 a month. Goodness. Fanny Sealy, my comptroller, was here. She'd be so disappointed because my quick math is normally very good. So, thank you, Peter. Thank you. You want to give the mic back there and then here, and then you, sir. And then we'll probably, unless anyone else has a question, and I'll be here afterwards as well, folks.
What makes this proposed community center, leasing it, more attractive in paying the common area maintenance and all that, as opposed to building right on the town hall campus, like where the old DPW building was?
First of all, I think the question is, the available space. I think this was an opportunity to us. I think having it be currently existing space that we're retrofitting makes it more affordable as far as the total project cost per square foot. I'll also say, I know that looks like a lot of space. I don't know, and certainly geotechnical, but when we were building the ball fields back there, I know it's complicated land back there. I will also note, we have significant challenges with parking, and that I'm not mentioning that because of tonight. It's an ongoing concern with ours with the new ball fields, if we are looking to add more amenities here. So that would be my answer. I really do think the opportunity to build out that facility was more cost effective as far as the overall project cost. Miss, thank you for the question, though. And you're next, sir, and I think that's.
Supervisor Seeley, the part that you put on where you broke down exactly, where you put with the seniors and what was gonna be, is that online so they can look it up?
Yeah, I'll put this online.
Because if you could kind of star that under the seniors, because that was one of the biggest questions, was it gonna be free to seniors?
Okay.
So I think it would help a lot, since you're gonna have a vote in a few days, to be able to get this out. I really don't
That's
know
good.
how you can do that.
Well,
And
I just
thank-
assume everyone goes to Irondequoit.org to start their day, right?
Right, well,
No?
I mean, because that was the question everywhere we went, was, what were seniors gonna have to,
I appreciate that feedback. Would you like a job here?
I would.
Why don't you?
I wanna work with Carrie, and she knows that.
And this gentleman, I think we'll wrap up, and
Thank
and we have one
you
more.
To all of you.
Well, thank you everyone for being here. I'll say that again, but you, sir, and wrap it up here. And then I'll be here, folks, to answer questions.
Looks like there's only 2 people in there using the facilities.
Well-
Do you plan on more residents or just?
Councilman Wayner is an architect. He'll note that, they charge you per person, so we felt it wouldn't be wise to throw a correct, yeah, the twin. They're juxtaposed identical twins. Maybe, I don't know the answer to that, but
Ice skating rink. Are you gonna have an ice skating rink at this facility?
no, not currently.
Are we gonna still have it out front
Yes,
here?
as long as the weather cooperates.
Will these jobs be living wage jobs for the people working at
Yes.
the facility, and also getting this facility the contractors
Yes.
that you will have? And
We're bound by prevailing wage in New York State. Oh, wow.
you might want to replace the chair before you get in contact.
I don't know how old I think these chairs were here when Richard was a council member.
You do have legal attorneys,
I got you.
correct? Okay.
And I'll leave it here to wrap up, sir.
Just one question. Given that it's going to be a public access facility, are you going to have controlled entrance?
Yes.
Okay, so that people will have to be screened and prove
Yep.
their members and all that kind of
And
stuff?
that will also be at both levels too. So if you're using the fitness center, there will be that other controlled access. But we also, and it's hard to see on the rendering, there'll be a separate entrance from the outside as well. There'll be an entrance to the common area of the mall, but then a separate entrance to the community center. One more, and then we'll wrap it up. I'll repeat it. Why don't you shout it out? As long as it isn't a two-sider. So again, the perception, and I'm mindful it's come up. Okay, so again, having private security there, and again, the owner has said this to me many times. It's a concern of his as well, so he's been adamant about private security. It was actually his idea to have space for the Irondequoit Police Department as well. I also, lighting is very important too, and making sure there's adequate lighting is something that's a priority as well. Yes, emergency phone. Well, I appreciate, this was fun. I've actually been looking forward to this. I'm not gonna, you might vote, you might not vote. Again, I applaud you for being well informed. I always embrace this. This is actually one of the funner parts of the job. But on behalf of the board, thank you to the board, thank you to my staff. But thanks for coming out, everyone, and enjoy your night.
We hope you enjoyed this special event coverage on ICAT Government Access.